Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club. Your number one stop for stellar reviews of volumes, arcs, or stories that us or yourselves choose. You can find us live every Wednesday on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, and the replay on all podcast networks. Take a seat, get yourselves and your opinions ready, as it's time to join the herd. But first, please put your hands together for your hosts, Shane, Phil, Scott, and Martin, as they kick off this week's discussion.
Hello. Welcome to the Nerd Herd channel, your one-stop shop for everything nerdy. This is the weekly Nerd Herd Comic Book Club, live here on YouTube every single... Wait, you shake your head there, Shane?
I just heard a bing bong in the background. I was like, I wondered who.
It's Alexa.
It's my Alexa.
Martin's bought something already from Whatnot. But yes, we're here every week, every Wednesday on YouTube, 9:30 p.m. without fail. Of course, you can watch us live, you can watch us on the replay, or you can listen to us on the podcast. This is the first episode of a new wave. We've just had our sequels month, and potentially adding on to maybe the sequels leaderboard next year. We're starting a new series, Volume 1 of Farmhand. And this is Volume 1, Reap What Was Sown, from Image Comics 2018, issues 1 to 5. And it is created, written, and drawn by ROB Guillory, or Guillory. I'm not really sure how it's pronounced. He of Chew fame. Who else was on the book? Colors, Taylor Wells, and letters was by Cody Chamberlain. So yeah, this is one, again, I've mentioned this before in a few of my picks, that one of the first books I added to my pull list, because I started collecting around 2018, so this is one of the very first ones I got. And so it's about time we go back and read all the good stuff from my introduction to comic books. All right. I don't have a synopsis written, but I'm just going to jump into Goodreads and read what they say, because they're better than anything I can come up with once I actually do it. Apologies. So, Jedidiah Jenkins is a farmer, but his cash crop isn't corn or soy. Jed grows fast-healing, plug-and-play human organs. Lose a finger, need a new liver, he's got you covered. Unfortunately, strange produce isn't the only thing. Jed's got buried deep in the soil of the Jenkins Family Farm. Something dark has taken root, and it's beginning to bloom. They say from ROB Guillory, he of the artist from Chew, which we covered in the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club. That's Farmhand. We essentially follow his son Zeke and daughter Andrea, and you've got all that family dynamic to play with. You've got kind of outside government intrusion, or what's the word? They're trying to find out more about it. Plus, you're dealing with all the local townsfolk who basically think what Jed does is evil and against God's wishes or whatever. But yeah, that's Farmhand. This is Volume 1. I'm trying to judge by your faces who's going to be more kind to the kind of the introduction to this. Shane, I'm going to go with you. I get the feeling that this book's kind of up your street in a way. Let me know. Am I right or am I right?
You are right. It is 100% up my alley. I think it's a great premise. Growing body parts that are attached so violently, I think is a great premise. The farm is fantastic. The jokes in this are great. The characters are fun. The art is great. I had a good time, and I think that's lacking from quite a few books that we do on the Nerd Herd, is the fun aspect of a book. Sometimes they can be a bit too serious. Sometimes they can be a bit too boring. I think this had just the right amount of comedy to seriousness to action to fun. Yeah, I had a good time.
Yeah, like what? Just on that, one of the big things for me is that this is obviously a wacky concept. The fact that you can grow human organs and body parts to replace, it's wacky, but they don't focus on that. If you don't like, it's not the main trope, so to speak. And like, there's a lot of the family stuff, the kind of, like say the townsfolk, whatever else. It's not just here's this wacky seed that grows arms and now the arms are like taking over the people. Something's wrong with them. There is something wrong with them, but that's not the focus. It's everything else around it and how it impacts them all pretty much. Martin, thoughts?
See, I was worried about this because I wasn't a big fan of Chew on my first read. So I sort of felt like I was going on a negative into this. But after the first issue, I actually quite enjoy this. This is really good. I like the art. The art's quite cool. I like the little tropes through the book. I like the writing in this. And I think the concept, Shane said, fantastic. And I loved, as you said, I loved that it wasn't so focused on the farm. The farm was a big thing, but the family dynamic made it more interesting. The mystery of what's going on, it drove me through the book. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. I would read a volume 2.
I think in total there are 3 volumes. So, maybe for a Herd's Choice, maybe for a sequels month, we could have this Soul series wrapped up fairly quickly.
Well, you say that very quickly. It did take twice as long to read with all the background jokes. You linger on every page in this book. There are so many jokes in the background.
Yeah, so basically, we had this before with sex criminals, and they deliberately have all this stuff in the background, all the attention to detail where, they're putting things in, hoping the reader actually looks at it and acknowledges that it's quite funny. And like this, now Rob Guillory was the writer and the artist, so I don't think he was going to his friends. This is so funny. Look at this here. Whereas, I had imagined with him creating this book, he's laughing into himself. Do you know what I mean? He's having those ha-ha moments to himself, hoping people are going to notice this. It's going to be funny. They're going to LOL. So yeah, there were, and I would say quite a few. It was practically every page. You had
any page that had a wall, there was some sort of poster on the wall that said something funny.
Yeah. And Shane, you did make a video montage of these, and which we'll show shortly. But we do have some people watching us live, so if you're here, just drop in the comments, say hello. Connie has said hello, and much to our surprise, she hasn't read it. Connie,
what's going on?
She hasn't read a few books recently. I've been in a reading slump. This would be the perfect book, I think, to get out of that reading slump as well. Something that's a bit wacky, can't take too seriously, but yet it will keep you entertained and on the edge of your seat, But yeah, so I mentioned that video montage. Should I show it now? We'll just go ahead and...
It's entirely up to you. You're the host.
I am the host. Since we talked about it, perfect chance. So we have a little video clip that Shane just made just moments before we went live. With a true professional that he is. And yeah, it's just to highlight some of the signs and things that were there, and we'll talk about them after. So here is all the background signs. I should have asked everyone to try and write down as many as they could see for those 36 seconds. I tried. I only got 3 written down. Yeah, the whole book kind of had this littered throughout, didn't it? Some of the ones I wrote down there from that things like analysis, WTF, science, it's just silly things like that, And he doesn't need to put these in, but again, I think he's in it for his own kind of amusement, and then obviously the reader sees it and they have a few LOL moments.
I think we're so in tune to just reading a book and looking at the main pictures that sometimes we overlook all these little things that the artist puts in, like the her diploma on the wall. You would your eyes would just go straight past that because you're like, okay, that's a scientist diploma, you don't need to read it. But when you read it, it's got her name, and underneath it says, that girl's smart. It's it's silly, but it made me happy as I was reading it.
It adds a nice... it adds a nice little charm to it, doesn't it? It just shows that the writer and the artist had fun with this book, You know,
Yeah.
to be able to make those little subtle humor remarks about what was going on in the story, and even things that are just completely irrelevant, like the one that said with the thugs, how to be a thug written on it.
Yeah.
like a manual how to be a thug. Yeah.
Because on the other side of the trunk, it had a bag that said "random tools for torture." So and it was just like, and like when he went into the shop to get the chicken feed, and on the wall it just says "illegal cockfights out back." Shh.
Yeah, see, it's things like that are so easy, because the thing is too, they weren't drawn in a like fancy manner. They're just like scribbles. He's actually just written it in his own handwriting. It wasn't anything fancy, but it's that kind of attention to detail, like to put those things in, even though they are quite minuscule. You definitely appreciate them a lot more, and you get more to the book in terms of what this book's meant to do for you. Like, it's not meant to be a serious book. It has these moments, the funny moments, but then the story itself can maybe be some serious at some point. But with these moments, it just brings it back to the kind of wackiness and the fun side of it, in my opinion. But yeah, the cockfights shush one was an interesting one. Look, again, if you have read along, if you know something for yourself, just let us know whether in the live chat or in the comments afterwards, because there's bound to be some that I've missed.
Yeah, the melon patch. Lol.
Melon patch, yes.
That's where you get your breast enlargements, and they called it the melon patch. And you have all the security guards outside lining up to go and look at all the sex organs.
Yeah, all the perverts. Let's be honest, if there was a farm that grew human body parts and organs, there would be a queue to get into that section. There just would be. People would be loving to get that job. Like, what's my job role today? Yep, you're on the boobies. Yes, like that's we want to be stationed at. So yeah, I get it.
I missed one. Oh, I can't believe I missed one. Well, you know, I think the security guard is asleep when the dog gets in. Well, the book, he's got a magazine with him, and it's a nudie mag, and it's called Bubes. It's BOWBS, Bubes. And I missed it. I can't believe I missed that one.
Oh dear. So again, different from Sex Criminals. Sex Criminals wasn't grotesque. It was more risque, wasn't it? Well, this is just quite subtle, but like you still laughed at it. Overall, on the art, Martin, what did you think? Because like, again, I feel like this is one you either really like or you kind of really hate. I think it's one of those ones where it's like it's because quite crooked. Would you agree? Or you?
Yeah, there was parts. I know we always try and look at the faces. This is Shane's fault. He's got me fixated on faces now when I look at books. There was times where I felt like it looked a little bit caricature-y with some of the faces, which niggled me a little bit. But overall, I don't mind this sort of playful art, that's very cartoony. I don't mind it at all. I think when you're reading a book that's quite humorous and it's supposed to be, that way inclined, I don't mind that playful art. It's only when you're reading something a bit more serious, I want that cleaner, sort of more distinctive artwork. But again, it varies from book to book, but I do think the artwork suits the style of this book down to a T. So it's made me want to read Chew again, because I think I've misunderstood Chew first time around. So
I think it's done well in terms of the art. I'm just trying to think of some of the pages. Remember that the pig was infected and they cut the pig open and it's all green and gangly or whatever. Like, it kind of does the kind of crookedness of the art lends itself well to those kind of scenes more, if you know what I'm trying to say. You're right, some of the faces are a bit daft looking, but again, you couldn't have the kind of art with that pig, say, and then have the faces be nice and clean cut.
Yeah. It's just something that stuck out to me. So you take the rough with the smooth. It didn't bother me enough to sort of dislike it, but it was just something that just glared at me when I saw it. When you see something on the page, it stands out, and that was just the one for me.
I mean, for me, it always depends on the story. If it goes with the story, then it's fine. I mean, if this was a book and if this was the art for something like Autumnal, I don't think it would work. It has to be a very specific style of story. May have improved it. But the artist is capable. When you see Jedidiah like up close in some of the panels, the face is beautiful and perfect, and so it's obviously his style. So he is capable of doing a more humanoid face, or less cartoony, a more serious style as well. but it's his style, and I really enjoy it. Like for this and for Chew, because they're both silly stories, aren't they? I mean, he eats food, and he eats humans to solve a crime. Like it's a weird story, but you need weird art for that, don't you?
Yeah, you're right, because he obviously was the artist for Chew, and that was a weird story. It done well for it, and I'm assuming this is the kind of style he prefers for his writing as well. Because again, if this was something autumnal, or even something more just generally more serious, or like a horror maybe, although there's horror elements to this, maybe a horror book would work with this art style, maybe like a zombie book or something, that'd be good, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I do think, you know, this is obviously his bag. He likes this kind of style of book, this wackiness. And yeah, I'm
really
a fan
good
of it
at motion.
Yeah,
I think I mentioned this in the discussion about Chew, that I remember it was another book that he seems to draw, like, as daft as this may sound, like knuckles, like joints of like knees, and he doesn't, everything's a right angle almost. Like he doesn't, you know, do you know what I'm trying to say? It's like he's not trying to be clean. He's just drawing a knuckle or drawing a hand or a fist, whatever, and everything's squared off. And even like people's jaws, they're all square jaws, whatever else. And I quite like that. I don't know why it is. It's almost like Ryan Otley, similar to, well, maybe not as, maybe a bit more blocky than Ryan Otley, but similar kind of style there too. But yeah, I'm a fan. Colors, obviously, like, you know, Rob himself was the main guy in this whole book, but color, I've never heard of Taylor Wells, but again, they had a lot of kind of bright colors that popped a lot. Then it kind of more pastel colors in some scenes as well. And I thought the colors was really good too. So shout out to them.
Yeah,
Agreed.
they did the job.
Yeah.
Yep, they did the job. Made it creepy when it needed to be creepy, funny when it needed to be funny.
Yeah, they did their job.
Yes.
You can't complain. Anything else you want to discuss about the art before we go into our page? I'm just trying to delay the
No, you were right when you say about the colours. You know, they did set the mood when it was supposed to be mysterious and moody. They changed the colour palette to be more darker. It give you that eerie feeling. But when you were in the family scenes and, you know, discussion, it was very bright, very sort of, you know, colourful pages that made you sort of, you know, focus less on that eerie atmosphere. But yeah, I like the contrast between through the book.
What I liked as well was, and again, you see it in comics often, but then you don't see it, and then when you do see it, you appreciate it. It's like the sound effects. They're not as big as, like, say, like Daniel Warren Johnson were, but like I remember ones like he cut off one of the flowers. It's like a simple snip, or there's a crack, or when they sniffed something, like the sniff. I remember the girl got the nose replacement, and they writes the word sniff. It's things like that. Like, again, you don't need to do it, and it wouldn't look well like a Batman book, for example. But for something like this, it definitely works, and that's that charm you were talking about, Martin. That kind of charm of the book, I think.
Because it was very subtle in this book, wasn't it? It was very simple and subtle, where you find some books, they go way over the top with the sound effects, where it sort of dominates the page. This was like the charm just ticked enough.
Yeah, it wasn't on every page. It wasn't too much. It was just the right amount, especially if it was like a close-up, like I say, the whole, like when he snipped the flower off, it was like a panel, just like literally the scissors and the stem of the flower, so it's quite close up, snip. But like they don't do it generally throughout the whole book. At least I did notice it. Connie is saying she didn't mind you, so I might pick this up. I'm surprised you actually hadn't. This is one of the first books that I picked up because, again, my local shop, which is the one Connie shares, they were big fans of this and they recommended it to everybody. So yeah, I'm recommending it to you as well now too. So yeah, pick this up. Get out of that reading slump. Come back to us. You know, this showing up every week in the chat and have not read the book. That's not going to work. Next week, let's start again.
Right. Or she won't come back.
No, please come back. We need you. You're all we have currently. So yeah. we'll get into our pages, shall we? I never mentioned that Scott obviously isn't here tonight. If you haven't noticed, we're 20 minutes in. Scott,
We didn't even introduce us, Phil. So
did I not?
no,
Sure, I did.
you didn't.
Okay, there's no point doing that now because we've already spoken. But yeah, so Scott hasn't given us a page this week. It's just us three, I believe. But you'll just have to make do because we'll pick some. Oh, we've only picked 2 pages because Martin and Shane have went ahead and picked the exact same. Go
How
ahead.
could you not, Martin?
I'm about to keep the pages. I'm about to keep the page so I remember his name. Mr. Fuzzy Nuts. How could you not appreciate Mr. Fuzzy Nuts? I did wonder what was going to go on when he was let in and why he was freaking out so much. And to see this mutated dog and want to eat everybody, this was just brilliant. This was a turning point for me in this book because I just thought, right, now you've got me. If this is what's happening to people, I want more. So, yeah. He's so cool.
Yeah, because I mean, we'd seen the signs up. No pets allowed. They smell. You know, no pets, no pets, no pets everywhere. And then as soon as they see the dog, they just freak out. And you're like, why are they freaking out? What is so terrifying about having a dog in there? And all it does is it eats one plant. It eats a finger, doesn't it? I think it's just a finger off one of the plants and turns into that. And it's like, look at his face. His face is just turning back, looking at you. He just looks terrifyingly menacing. And I think it's fantastic. Great design as well for a plant dog. You imagine this like protecting poison ivy in Gotham City.
Yes. You've got 2 of them like Harley.
That's a good shout. They should have this with poison ivy. Yeah, I agree. But yes, for our podcast listeners, this was a scene where you weren't allowed to bring an animal into the farm. Obviously through dangers not explained up until this point. And was it Mr. Fuzzy Nuts?
Yeah, I'm trying to see what dog he was. I couldn't really say, but he was a little fluffy dog.
King Charles, was it? King Charles or something?
That's
like
it.
That? Oh.
A little King Charles, and now he's some big hulking green angry dog.
Some little kind of made up madam had him in her handbag or whatever, like those crazy ass dog people. Yeah. Don't bring your dogs to a farm that grows body parts. Nothing good's going to come of it.
Because the owner had gone there for her melon patch replacement, hadn't she?
Is that why she was there? I didn't take note of that.
Just such a weird. They'd be cheaper. Sure, they'd be cheaper. You grow another pair, no big deal. So my page was quite early on. This is the scene where it kind of shows you how the limbs kind of attached to the human. So early doors, they had a break-in, someone trying to steal their knowledge and their science. And it turned out the guy was a youngster, a kid who had his arm his arm is missing. So instead of punishing him by beating him or arresting him or something, they decided to give him an arm. But also it goes through this whole ordeal where like this arm opens up, like this big mouth opens up with the sharp teeth and chomps into his kind of stub on his arm and just attaches to him. I just thought it was quite interesting to see because let's be honest, if it's a book about growing body parts, you want to at least see this one time, and they have.
Yeah.
And I think again, the kind of the fact that the wee fella's frightened, the very start his eye looking up at it, and he's just like, oh dear, but then they obviously scream at the end. I just thought it was a good dramatic page.
Well, it was actually a terrifying scene because they chop the arm off the tree, and Jedidiah calls it, and it walks over to him, and it's horrifying.
Yeah, and this is the thing too with the premise of the book, and you don't find out till later on towards the end of the book where when they're growing these body parts, they only grow it when they hear Jedidiah's voice, and he obviously his presence is there, and then they'll obviously grow. Without that, they won't. So he's the key, and maybe we haven't explained, but if you're wondering why he's the key, he just had a vision one night, didn't he, and how to grow this seed, and so he is the main guy. Without him, there's no body parts, there's no melon patch, You know,
And you would think it would be a lot busier in there. Like he wouldn't have free time to be showing groups of school children around. You'd think he would be in the operating room putting body parts on people all day long if it needs his voice. But we only see two. We see the arm, but then we see one customer get her nose.
Yeah.
Obviously the second one with the boobs, but she didn't get hers. But so yeah, you'd think Jedidiah would all day be in the room putting body parts on people. But
come here.
Yeah.
He called it like a dog, didn't he? He did do that, yeah.
But it's so weird. Like the book starts and you're on the farm and Zeke and Andrea are younger and they're doing work in the patch, just feeding the chickens. Zeke digs in the ground and finds an eyeball, and it's the dad, Jedidiah. He's buried himself. He says it's the only way. Don't touch me. It's the only way. Zeke touches him and gets pulled into him, which then grabs Andrea, and they turn into a tree. So
it's a dream.
And is that a dream?
Yeah. Sure. He wakes up. The next scene, he wakes up and he's in bed with his wife, and he goes makes a coffee.
Yeah, but was it a dream or was it a memory? And was he killed that day, and that's how the dad has like brought him back with plants.
See, this is what I was thinking too, because this volume doesn't explain that really, but I do think it was a nightmare stroke dream, but based on maybe like an over exaggerated version of what actually happened. Because of course Zeke did leave, didn't he? Left the farm and was estranged from his dad for a long time, and that's where this kind of kicks off. But yes, I do think there's something more there, but I don't know if like they turned into the tree. Maybe.
I thought it potentially could be a premonition, like what could be going on down the line, you know, because for something that size, that tree was huge. And you saw the tree again through the story when he sort of...
When he almost lapsed. He almost lapsed back into... He went to get alcohol, didn't he? He was outside the liquor store.
Could be something that happens further down the line, because obviously...
Yeah, I mean, it traumatized him. He was an alcoholic. He's 2 years sober now, so whatever it was, it traumatized him more than just leaving a farm and leaving his dad because he didn't like the work, or he didn't like that his dad was growing things. It was a bit more traumatizing than that to turn you into a full-blown alcoholic.
Yeah,
I think so. Interested to see if that was just a dream or if it is something that happened, and maybe he accidentally killed Zeke, because we didn't see what happened to Andrea, but he grabbed Zeke, so maybe he killed Zeke and then brought Zeke back, because they were experimenting on the brain at one point in Thorn. So maybe his son was brain dead and he was trying to bring him back, but then he said, no more work on brains. It's a very interesting concept, and I don't think it gave us enough for a verse volume. I think it needed a bit more. Bit more backstory.
This is what I want to come to. I think as a verse volume, it gave us plenty, because yes, the idea of growing the limbs and growing the body parts and not wanting to play with the brain, and obviously the idea of Monica Thorne was now the mayor or whatever else, and she was the scientist that Jedidiah brought in. But the fact is, like, you got a good bit of a backstory from Zeke, the fact he is recovering from being an alcoholic. And then you had Andre, his sister, who was in the Marines or something, or in the military anyway, and she obviously lost a leg in a bomb blast. But
she chose to get
chose a carbon fiber leg as opposed to one that her dad could grow her. So there's a lot of kind of under what's what I'm looking for, like a lot of things still to unravel with all the characters. I actually think everyone had a good amount of character building, other than maybe Zeke's wife. I don't think she was much involved, but then she is kind of there more for him and maybe the kids. But even the kids, they had quite a lot to do. They worked on the farm.
It's just nice to see a family unit. Normally it's a single parent moving back to their parents, so it was nice that it was a family unit for once.
I agree. I do think Andrea is the dark horse of the book. Like, we know she's obviously working for the military still, like obviously feeding them information based on her dad and what he's doing, but yet she's kind of withholding some stuff.
She's doing it to keep her dad safe and open.
Essentially. So, but then she's going to get under more pressure. She is under more pressure because she obviously meets with her. What do you call her minder?
Handler.
Handler, that's the
Yeah.
one. So, I honestly think that every kind of the main characters had a lot, but you could literally there's enough mystery in everyone to make you want to read on, and that's why I think as a volume 1, it's done a good job. As I said, it didn't really focus on the actual science or the idea that you can grow limbs. We've seen what happens if it goes wrong. We've seen that now. That's it. You don't need to tell us that. We want to see how it impacts everyone else. Again, with the locals.
I mean, it looks like volume 2 is going to show you that because everyone seems to be growing plants and flowers who have had implants. Yeah. I mean, the Russian boy at the beginning who had his arm, he had a fake arm, he had a robotic arm because he went in there to steal a snipping, didn't he? Or was it a finger or a thumb?
Was it?
Yeah.
I was getting like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory vibes. You know, like when they tried to get them to steal the everlasting gobstopper, so they send the kids in, and it's like I was getting that vibe from it because it was a kid, and then he starts doing kung fu and beating the crap out of these fully grown men, which was fantastic. But then he goes outside, and that guy just bonks him on the head, and he's got the tattoo on his arm that just says "tough," and he just bonks him on his head.
But again, that plays to that very sort of fun, cartoony style. That I appreciated that. I found that quite humorous when they did that. And he was so smug as well. The guy, I can't remember his name now. Is it Tiberius?
Tiberius, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's the mayor's son, isn't he?
So buff and smug, and I did it. Don't worry, I'm the security guard.
But then that's another thing too. But so Andrew was going to sack him because he was pretty bad at his job. But obviously, there's a connection there with the previous mayor, who we haven't really seen now. I imagine we will at some point. Just send hello to Highland G, who's jumped in the chat. Let us know if you read this, or after listening to us, you're happy to read it because we speak so highly of it. Who knows? But yeah. Again, a concept like this, in previous books we've read, you almost expect this to be a quick read. But I don't think it was. Not just because we're looking at all the pictures and stuff to find all the hidden messages, but I genuinely think there's a lot of story here that could keep you hooked and entertained through your whole read. And there are 15 issues in total, but I don't think it's ended. I think there may be scope or intention anyway to go back and do more. Obviously, we can't judge the other 2 volumes here, but I definitely think there's a lot here that you could do. One of my favorite things is actually the locals, more than the government stuff and more than rival companies. I like how the locals kind of, I'm assuming it's like a redneck town. They'll believe in Jesus and whatever else, and how Jed's the evil because he's growing these body parts and whatever else. And I love how when they're out and about, like doing their normal duties, like buying groceries or in the bar or whatever, they get into bother because they're Jed's kids or whatever. I quite like how this impacts the locals, even though he had said he done so much for the economy of this little kind of town. Was it Freetown or?
Yeah.
Freetown.
Yeah.
But yeah, like in terms of other kind of impacts it has on people, like what would you say would be your kind of favorite aspect that you want to see more of? Would it be the government stuff? What is it, the locals? Is it just the family?
It's that little caterpillar thing that's following the sun around. I want to know what that is.
Yeah.
That invisible caterpillar that can fly.
I think that's the first animal that ate something that made them aware of what it does to animals.
Oh.
That's what I think. That's the impression I got from it.
Like a caterpillar that came into the farm and nibbled on a leaf or something. Yeah.
Because how would you know not to have any pets if that's what happened?
Kind of turned into like a ghost, didn't it? Or kind of phased through, like.
Yeah, because it saved the kids from the dog when the dog attacked.
Yes.
But didn't he see it as well? Didn't Jed see it at one point?
I'm not sure, but I know Andrea didn't see it. Like, she was surprised that they got away from the dog, but she was looking right at them as they flew across the page.
So it's almost like a ghost. Like I said, phased out or something. Yes, it is quite strange, and maybe that's the one thing that hasn't left enough information. There's nothing else there. Like, as you said, had they mentioned there was a previous animal that we worked on, didn't work out, blah blah blah, whatever, you could kind of put two and two together and assume that's it. But there was nothing of the sort. This is this random caterpillar doggy thing appears. So yeah, it is quite strange.
And I think, I mean, as funny as the book is and as entertaining as the book is, I think it is a message about, you know, a company comes into a small town, says it's going to help the town economy-wise and job-wise, but then chemicals start leaking into the local water supply or the land. I think, you know, that's what's happening in this town. And I think it is a sly way of just having a dig at these big companies, isn't it?
It reminded me of two particular things that I've seen in previous stuff. So you've got the nuclear power plant from The Simpsons. It made me think of that. And it also made me think of the Hawkins lab in Stranger Things.
Yep.
Yeah,
so they think everything's contained on the farm, but we know it's not just because of the pig, but because of that caterpillar thing. When he climbs off the car and he wanders off into the bush, he goes to sleep and the bushes around him have body parts on them.
Yes, you're right. And even as well with Thorn, whenever Sake's wife was sitting with her in their garden, did she give them this weird mint or something that was clearly what was a bit abnormal? So there is something there. You're right, actually. Stranger Things, the kind of lab vibe is there, and also the nuclear plant. See, I do just think there's enough here for me to kind of, as a reader, to want to read on. I actually haven't read on. I only ever read the first volume. I collected the single issues with the intention of going back and reading it, but then sometimes your pull list just it gets out of hand. As you know, Martin, you get carried away with all your single issues.
Yes, I have found that out.
And you don't always get caught up. Highland G is saying he read the first issue a while back, and he was interested in reading more. He's hoping for a hardcover. And again, with the collected edition game, you would have thought this would have came sooner, but I think it is due to the fact that I don't think it's ended. Maybe that's why.
When did these 3 volumes wrap up? When was the last trade released? Because this would be the perfect opportunity now to release a hardcover with a 15-issue run.
Yeah, but maybe they just don't want to do that until they know they can do another 3 issues, or another 3 volumes. That way they can kind of have that kind of 15-15. Talk amongst yourselves. I will find out the actual date of the last one. And
back to Thorn, you knew there was something dodgy about her straight away when you saw that she had one blue eye and one green eye. You're like, oh
god, yeah,
she's dodgy AF. And then Andrea goes to see her, has a nice cup of tea, and all of a sudden she turns into Poison Ivy, poisons her with her hands, drugs the poor lass, throws her off a bridge. It's like, what?
We've got our villain now. She's the mayor.
Turn.
In one way, I don't.
Old lady at an antique shop.
As much as I want to know more about that character, I don't want her to be the dominant sort of like big bad of this series. I'm hoping that the actual the farm spilling out on the town is going to be the focal point.
Yeah,
I'm just hoping that she's, compare it to Stranger Things. I'm hoping she is like a Demogorgon of it, as opposed to what's going on with the lab. That's, for me, that's more interesting.
I think whatever's done to her, I think she did it herself. She did it to herself.
Yeah, out of jealousy, perhaps, because she wanted to work on the brain, didn't she? She wanted to continue with the science of what this seed brought, but she was obviously fired from it. And she even mentioned there was no hard feelings. But when people say that, you kind of think, well, yeah, there was something. Yeah. There's hidden angst or disappointment there somewhere. So allow me to correct myself, because there is not 15 issues. There is 20, and it is wrapped up. So, but from what I can remember, when I collected this in single issues, they'd done 15, and then there was a long pause for a long time. Maybe due to COVID, I'm not sure. But then the last 5 issues came out. So it actually ended in August 2022. So it's complete. It is complete. So a nice 20-issue hardcover may one day come out. But like I say, it only ended last year. So it's not too...
Who is the publisher? Do they tend to do hardcovers, this publisher?
Image.
Image.
Yeah. Image.
Oh, it's Image, is it?
So like I say, it's not even a year ago it ended. So we'll say August there. So we're approaching the year. Maybe one day soon. a nice hardcover collected edition will come, and I will buy it because I'm a sucker for it. Yeah, I definitely am.
I'd like to read another trade before I make that call. I enjoyed this. I just want to know that it holds up a little bit more. If it continues as good as this one was, I will get the hardcover without a doubt.
And that's the thing too. With obviously, like, you know, we have our sequels leaderboard. The reason why we do that is because you can be blown away by Volume 1 and be disappointed with the rest. I'm looking at you, Klaus. Or you could be disappointed with Volume 1, but know that there's so much hype about a book that gets better during you know, its run, i.e. Invincible. We don't know yet for sure, but we're assuming it gets better. But Invincible Volume 1 was pretty poor, so hopefully this is the one that we do read a sequel. We do read a Volume 2, because I have them. I can read anything I want, but I want to know what happens. And I think you're right. The whole Thorn thing, are they building her up to be the big bad? You know, I think maybe she might be. You know, I
don't know. I don't know if she just wants to maybe get back at Jed. I don't think she's evil. Maybe she does just want the town to be green. Like, she's Poison Ivy. She wants a greener world. She wants a peaceful world, and maybe she feels that to do that she has to take down Jed's farm, because it's green, but it's body parts. It's not flowers and herbs that like what she wants. But I don't think she's the big bad. I don't think there will be a big bad, as in, one person, because they've got the Russians, they've got the thugs, they've got the army. So they've got a load of people coming at them from all directions. I think the problem will be it's stretching out into the town. I think maybe a bush or two will intersect, and, you'll get an arm bush that intersects with a scalp bush, and you'll create something that can move, that has a head, and it'll just be picking up eyes and ears and become something, if because they keep the bushes very separate. They keep the eyes away from the heads, away from the ears, away from the noses. What happens if you mix them all together? Do you just grow a human without a brain?
Yeah, and that's the thing, because the fact that in this book, the fact that Jed doesn't want to work on brains, because I was getting the impression had he not stomped on it, it was going to grow the human who owned the brain.
Yeah.
When I popped out of it, didn't it?
Yeah. Now we're seeing, and whose brain was that? That'd be interesting.
It was a monkey. It was a deceased monkey.
Oh yes, it was a monkey. Yeah, it was as a primate. So I'm assuming that, as you're saying, there's no cross contamination for that reason. Where if they do grow all these parts and combine to be one, they don't have the brain and the kind of conscience like a human would have. So that could spell disaster. So yeah, that could be interesting. But again, I wouldn't want to see that as the main overall threat. Maybe like for even as one volume or something, like what potentially could happen, what could go wrong. I do just kind of predicting myself, like with the government, with the army and the military's interference, I can imagine that this will spread in the town, and we'll have to have some sort of containment, like a big dome. Without the big dome, you'll just have a perimeter, and just not let this spread to other towns, and you won't have like outsiders coming in and so forth. That could be an option too for them. Yeah, but again, with this, there's enough that interests me that wants to see this on again, at least for, like, you're right, Martin, one more volume at least.
I'm sort of hoping that instead of having one sort of focal point, I hope everything we've said is the problem. Everything. I think I want to get hit with absolutely everything. So it's sort of a cluster of problems, because this is a fun book. This is a playful book. It's humorous. It would completely work if you just had everything going on. Everything that we've said we don't want to be in the main thing, just have it all going on. It wouldn't bother me, because it would just be so much fun to read and see it evolve in that way. Just be one big explosion at the end would be enjoyable.
Yeah.
And to be fair, like I mentioned, this volume having a lot going on, but they don't touch too long on certain things. They could have all this. This could all go on for the next 15 issues. Just give us everything. Just get every potential, every possibility of how things could be, of every characters. Give it to us. I think it would fit, because it's wacky. Do you know? if it was trying to be too serious, then I think I would tap out and go, no, you're boring me now with it. But because of how it is, you could give us everything and be okay with that. So I agree.
Just work.
Yeah, you could have the soldiers. You can have a soldier sneak in to steal something, to steal one of the seeds, and on his way out gets attacked by the thugs who get the seed. And while they're trying to escape, the Russians come and take the seeds from them. And you could just have it just go round and round where they're just all fighting over this one seed. And Jedidiah doesn't even know it's happening. It can be happening in the background of the farm while he's puttering around. And he doesn't know until it gets to the final stage where he finally gets involved and just sees the aftermath of all these dead bodies that he's had nothing to do with. But then the dead bodies can just start to get limbs from the trees. And they just keep coming back and they're just all fighting over the seeds. You know, it's like put an arm on, put a leg on, put a head, put an ear on, put a nose on, until they're just fully tree people. Yeah, just be over the top, be fun, be silly, be over the top, because the premise is ridiculous, but in a good way.
Yeah.
So you have to be over the top with it. You can't just let it fizzle out and be, oh, it turns out that they turn into zombies and they just want to be around Jed, and then they all come to the farm and just work on the farm with him. You know, you don't want it like, you want it over the top explosions, stupid, funny. And it's only 4 volumes, so, you know, make everyone happy at the end. I will say in this volume, I don't think the priest was needed. He's the one character in this book that just seemed shoehorned in, just so Zeke had a friend in town.
But I liked him.
Yeah,
you're right. He was shoehorned in terms of, like, you know, he didn't do anything over. Well, so he saved him, didn't he? As he was put into the trunk of a car. But I think you're right. It's one of those ones that there's more story there too. The fact that he was a friend of Jed as well. But I agree. Like, I actually forgot he was in it until you mentioned him. So he didn't really play a pivotal role or anything like that. But he was cool for what he did. I mean, the priest who basically throws the Bible at someone's face.
So many people got hit in the face in this book. Fantastic. You've got Andrea having the fight outside the bar when she punches the guy in the face and his face just goes everywhere. You've got the daughter, the son playing dodgeball.
Yes, that's right.
And the kid before him just gets the dodgeball in his face, and then the bully gets the dodgeball in his face. Just so many facial injuries in this book.
And then Jed punched the bloke who started on his daughter the following day when he opened the door, smack straight in the face.
And the Russian kid at the beginning beat the crap out of all the guys in the pot house. Yeah.
Just on that dodgeball scene, do you remember it was written on the ball itself? Widowmaker, yeah. Again, it's just the small touches that make this book kind of entertaining. But as for the face smashes, like, again, you notice it more. I noticed it more. The noses are all squared off. Like, they're all crooked and square whenever they get punched. Like, they just snap their nose. And that's what I like. I think it looks cool. I think this kind of style of art lends itself really well to that kind of impact of like a fight or something in a comical manner, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah. So we're hitting the 50-minute mark, but I just want to know, like, do I ask, you prefer this over Chew? Would we? Yeah.
Me personally, yeah, but then I want to read Chew again. So if we read volume 2, I've got to read volume 1 again. I might see it in a different light, because I think this time round with this particular artist, with the writing, you know, my second go at his work as maybe appreciating more. So I might go into Chew again with a better attitude than I did first time round. But as it currently stands, yeah, I prefer this over Chew. Personally.
The reason why I ask isn't because I'm trying to, like, my pick's better than whoever picked Chew. It's more along the lines of, because he was the artist on that. And this is his first kind of, get his first gig as a writer, as a creator. He created the whole world, the whole thing. This is his first thing, which I actually think's pretty good. The concept, the story, the kind of whole family dynamic for somebody who isn't a writer has done fairly well. So I can't remember who was the writer for Chew. I'll look it up, but I'm pretty certain they're a very established name who
I think
has
it is.
done a lot of books and stuff. So to see this as his first ever book, I think he's done rather well.
But they're just too different. I don't want to. I don't think I could pick between them. Because I really enjoyed Chew. The premise for Chew is great as well. I think that premise is fantastic. You know, he gets visions or memories when he eats something, of anything, even a vegetable, and that's a great premise. And the meat has been outlawed, so you have to like smuggle chicken fillets and stuff like from the black market. That's fun. See, again, it's the fun world, the fun universe, and this is just so much fun. This had the comedic aspects of sex criminals with the background being so busy. I don't know. I don't think I could pick between the two of them.
Yeah. John Layman was the name I was thinking of for Chew, who I believe's done some work for Marvel, maybe even DC, possibly. But I know he's done Marvel zombie stuff. I think it was the main series, was maybe some of the tie-ins or whatever. But yeah, so again, him being established, writing Chew, which is great. But then again, for me, that's why I asked. I mean, Rob Guillory, who mentioned at the start of this book how he was basically encouraged by John Layman to do it, essentially. So fair play, kudos. I think I'm certainly entertained. It's done its job. Before we kind of start wrapping this up, do we have any further points that you want to make? Anything else that we could think?
No, I'm just very intrigued as to why everyone now is starting to exhibit flowers coming out of them. Like, what has happened now to start this off? Because they all seem to be at the same level of growth when you see them all at the bus station. Like, no one is any further along than anyone else. So something has triggered this, and I'm interested.
Obviously, the whole idea of creating this seed that he uses, I hope this is what I would dread as for Volume 2, whatever. This is what I would dread if there was aliens involved or magic. I don't need an explanation. Do you know what I'm trying to say? I don't need like a logical reason why this happens. Just don't give us aliens or magic as the reason why it happens. Just it is what it is.
I don't even care about an explanation for his vision. Just leave that as an open-ended. Just give us everything that you've given us beyond that point, and I think I'll be happy. I'm quite happy not knowing where the vision came from.
Yeah, because I think anything we can imagine will be better than what. No offense, but it's the same with anything. Any mystery in any book, any horror, any monster that they're describing is always going to be better in your own imagination, because you can come up with what's terrifying to you and what's interesting to you. So yeah, your own explanation for how that seed came into existence will be far better than what he can come up with. You're never going to please everyone with your explanations, so just don't have them. You know, like the Walking Dead comic never told you how the outbreak started.
Just leave it for interpretation.
Do you mean this? Oh wait, where are we? Interpretation. Yeah, and that's the thing. I think if he gives a definitive reasoning for this, you're right. You might please some people, but the chances are you're not going to please the majority of the fans of your own book, and they could potentially ruin it, I suppose, if you go to.
Like human sacrifice, or is it a seed, or is he just burying body parts on sacred land? Like, it's just don't do it.
It goes. Sorry, Phil, go on.
No, you go ahead.
It just goes back to the fact that this is a fun story again, doesn't it? Just don't take it too seriously. I don't need this big blown out reason why he had it. Just leave it. You've done enough. You've planted the seed. Just let it go. And let us just do what we want to do.
Because the main crux of the story isn't the body part. It's everything and the chaos that creates around it. So we don't need to know. As you mentioned, The Walking Dead. It wasn't the virus was the problem. It was the problems around all the chaos. So similar to that. Don't tell us. Please don't give us a definite or definitive answer. We don't want it. We don't. Okay. Right. So 55 minutes in. We've stretched this as far as we can. So let's get into our final thoughts and scores. No one in the chat has commented that they've read along, and so they're not going to score it. So it's going to be us three tonight, by the sounds of things.
Oh, an
you've missed out.
untainted score. We haven't had an untainted score since season 1.
Untainted.
Tainted
tainted,
by the
tainted.
common folk in the chat.
But
And
yes,
they've missed out. You've missed out this week because this was a good book.
It
So
really was.
you've missed
Yeah.
out.
Phil did us good this week.
I'm good for it most weeks. The odd time, but yeah. But it'll be interesting to see what score you can come up with. They say Scott hasn't read this week, so only us three scoring it. Yeah, let's go high. Strategically, let's go like a 10, and that way, I'm not playing that trope this year. I'm very much open to what it is.
let's
Martin,
just get it out there. I enjoyed it, but it's not a 10.
Yeah, Martin, do you want to go ahead and let us know your final thoughts on your scores, please?
Yeah. Try not to touch on, we'll touch on a lot of things we've already said. You know, the art was really good. This was such a fun story. I did not see this come in. I went in with a very negative attitude and really enjoyed it. I do want more. I won't lie. I want to read this full series. I'm hoping this comes back in a sequels month down the line. Now that I will be getting chooses next year, I might pick this for a sequels month. Let's see what happens. It was fun. The premise was fantastic. It really did grip me. I think after seeing what it did to the animals, what it was doing to the townspeople, as I said before, it gave me sort of little vibes from different TV shows and stuff that I've seen. So this was my wheelhouse. It's made me appreciate this style and this way of writing now, because before I normally stick to my superhero stuff or very more serious type of indie stuff. This has made me want to maybe look at some more fun, playful stuff. But overall, I can't score this super high because this is not a 10 out of 10 book, but I want to leave it room to grow. So I'm going in at 7.5.
Pun intended.
Wow, nice one. Sorry, what was that, Martin? I missed that.
I'm going in with a 7.5.
9.5, no problem. Shane?
I think he did a great job with this world building. I think the universe he's created is fantastic. The characters he's created are great. They're likable. Like, no one was, get off the page already. You know, I liked everyone in this, even the snidey ones, the backstabby ones. I liked the way everyone was written. I'm very intrigued where the story's going to go. I love this idea of growing body parts that just attach to you. No surgery. But they attach to you in the most terrifying way, but people keep coming back. Like, I want to see this as a live action TV series, like a comedy series. I think this would work really, really well. Or maybe an animated series. I would watch it either way, like a Rick and Morty style. I would watch the hell out of that. But yeah, this is definitely going to get better, I think. And I can't remember what I scored Chew, unfortunately, because I do think they are about the same in my eyes, but I'm going to give this an 8 because I really, really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed it, and I will definitely read on. And if we don't read it on the herd, then I'll probably just pick it up myself and read it anyway.
Yeah.
Nice. Some good, strong scores now. If there is anyone in the chat who has read it, just hasn't commented, just drop your scores in. This is your last and final chance to do it. But I'll give mine. I'm going to echo what you both kind of say. Like, the idea that this is wacky but works. Again, my big thing is that it doesn't focus on the body parts. Like we mentioned, the things we want to see, where like they create a body out of all these different parts. It doesn't focus on that yet. Maybe it will down the line, but for this volume, it focuses a lot more on the other people. Say the locals, the military, the Russians. I like that. I still like the fact that it managed to fit in, like Seek and his problems with his dad, and Andre and his problems or her problems with her dad, as well as problems with the brother, because she was the bully, wasn't she? She was the younger sister, but she was the bully for Seek, and he also has this kind of, bad memories of that too as a kid. And like I say, the Monica Thorne stuff, there's the mayor, Levette, who is funding all this as well. There's still so much to come into play. I think this does a really good job of kind of giving us the main kind of players, but also wanting us to read more to see what is actually at play here, what is going on, who's the main instigator, who's going to be such and such, like you know, do you know what I mean? And even the like Jed's secret, I don't want to know the definitive answer, but it, you know, it's still out there. It's a mystery of why this happens. I like that. I get lingering. Art is crooked and weird and wacky. It fits the story perfectly, and grotesque what it needs to be as well. Every character Shane mentioned was written really well. There's no one I didn't not care about. They're all pretty interesting. Even the local rednecks, they were quite fun, to be honest. And the thugs were fun. So yeah, what I say?
You said the thugs were fun.
Under a lot of pressure here. So yeah, I'm not too far off where you are at. I'm not going with a 10. I'm not that selfish, but I am going to match Shane with an 8. As a first volume, what we all want to read on, and it has set the bar, in my opinion, that we would probably judge volume 2 more with more ridicule possibly, because it needs to head above that bar. So I'm going with an 8 this time around.
Nice.
So 8 from me, 8 from Shane, and 7.5 from Martin. That gives us an average of 7.8. So
Ooh.
does it come into the leaderboard? I'm not, or the top 10, I should say. I'm not so sure. Let's just see. It does not. To come into the top 10 and have your cover and picture, for everyone to see, it needs the best an 8, which this is not. So not far off it. It actually goes joint 8th with Self-Storage. That was the first book we read, wasn't it?
Yes. First viewers pick.
Oh, was it the viewers pick?
Yeah.
So there we go.
Yes, first
Self-Storage, 7.8, and that's for Farmhand. Finds itself this week. So yeah, this hopefully, this may one day appear in the sequels leaderboard if we pick volume 2. I think we're all definitely intrigued to read on, and maybe that day will come on live on YouTube. Coming up this week, we do have a Kev's draw along tomorrow. I believe it's tomorrow at 7 p.m. I know it's still not scheduled just yet, but he is doing Jester drawing. Simply explain, he puts, but it takes simply explain. I would still struggle to be honest.
Simple for Kev because he knows what he's doing.
And Kev, to be fair, just check him out on Instagram. He's currently doing a mural on where he lives locally, and one of the walls, whatever, and he's updating his progress, obviously, and I'm looking forward to when it's done. So check that out on his Instagram. But yeah, last week he done the perspective draw along, didn't he? So he's not just focused on characters and how to do them. He's trying to give us actual lessons on how to draw. So yeah,
I started watching that earlier. It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
So I've got to finish that one off.
Be able to do an entire comic book by the time he's finished his series.
Yeah. If any of our viewers or listeners or watchers do follow along with Kev's drawings, feel free to send them to us or Kevin directly, because I'm sure you very much appreciate the feedback. Yeah. Also, next week, if I can find it, it is not. We don't have a video because Scott makes the videos and he didn't do it this week, and I didn't do it. We do have this. This is next week's read. And it is Orphan and the Five Beasts. That's from 2021 from Dark Horse Comics. That is now actually scheduled on YouTube. So set your reminders, folks. If you can read along, great. And then jump in the chat next week. Let us know how things go. That's it. That's us. Just us 3 this week, just to say goodbye. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll catch you next week. Get your ears out.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Love you.